Thank you for listening to the Unsilencing Stories podcast. We are in the midst of a public health crisis. More than 32,000 people in Canada have died from fatal opioid overdoses since 2016, according to Health Canada. Previously, this podcast featured interviews with bereaved people in smaller towns and communities in BC and Alberta who have lost loved ones to fatal overdose. In this phase, we're sharing interviews with 7 harm reduction workers, also known as peers, in different parts of BC. The BC Centre for Disease Control Harm Reduction Services defines harm reduction as support services and strategies that aim to keep people safe and minimize death, disease, and injury from high-risk behavior. Peers face a lot of challenges. This has been documented by many researchers, including Zara Mamdani and colleagues in BC. In their 2021 paper, they outlined significant challenges peers face, including financial struggles, difficulty finding housing, and stressors at work. We wanted to explore these themes with peers and find out more about their experiences and share this knowledge with the public. So we conducted multiple remote interviews with harm reduction workers and invited them to talk about the stressors they face. Please note, this podcast contains information about substance use, overdose death, grief, trauma, and stressors that peers face, and this may be distressing to listen to. The podcast is part of a research project led by Erin Goodman, PhD, faculty member at Kwantlen Polytechnic University in Surrey, BC, and conducted under the auspices of a grant known as the Chancellor's Chair Award. I'm Caitlin Burritt, a researcher with the project. A number of researchers, including Georgia Ricciardi and Chloe Burritt, who happens to be my sister, and a number of students have played key roles in the study, and you'll hear many of their voices in this podcast. This episode is a graphic elicitation, which is a research method in which art produced by researchers or participants is used to invite participants to reflect on their lived experiences, beliefs, or behaviors. Caitlin Burritt talks to Taija McLuckie about 2 pieces of art Caitlin created based on Taija's interviews. Taija discusses how the art makes her feel and what seeing the art makes her recall about those moments in her life.
I printed these on matte photo paper, by the way.
Cool.
These are so amazing.
Oh, I'm so happy that you like them. And also, is that the best way, like, that you would like to, as we talk about them, look at them? Because I can also share my screen, but if you prefer to look at the page, that's also totally fine.
If I can look at them here, that's fine.
Okay. So basically, this is kind of an interesting interview because it's an accompanying piece, but I believe people will also be able to view it kind of as a standalone if they want. So we have, I have a little basically introduction section to go over with you, which it will be sort of strange for us because we have done this so many times now, but just in case anyone clicked on this one first. So I will just go along that to start us off with. It just starts off with some biographical intersectional information. And the reason for that is because one of the things that we want to explore in this study is whether intersectionality is related to the work-related stressors that peers face. It's up to you if you want to share the information or not. So the first thing that I'll get you to do is just to introduce yourself. If you'd like to use a pseudonym, you can.
My name is Taija McLuckie. No pseudonym.
And what are your pronouns?
She, her.
Her. Do you feel comfortable giving your location that you work, or would you like to pass that one?
I'm not sure what I answered the first time around, but I think after going through all of this process, I am comfortable saying that I am on the unceded traditional territory of the Comox First Nation, otherwise calling it Courtney on Vancouver Island.
Yes. What is your age?
I'm 34.
And then the other intersectional details we ask for, if you're comfortable, are what is your gender, sex, race, ethnicity, class, sexuality, religion, disability, or physical appearance, but you can answer whichever one of those that you like or none of them. It's up to you.
I am very mindful of my privilege as a white used to say middle class, but I'm not sure how much that exists anymore. I have a Ukrainian and Scottish background that I am deeply in love with. And I think I talk a lot throughout these episodes about having ADHD. I don't like to call that a disability. I think it has given me the gifts that I have within this work. So my hyper focus of harm reduction is embedded in my disability. Um, Weight fluctuates. Yeah, physical appearance, lots of tattoos and lots of piercings because I get bored.
Yeah, that is a good, yeah, happens to the best of us with the
Yeah.
tattoos and piercings.
Mhm.
So basically for the illustrations, I have, similar to the oral history process of the previous interviews, I have a long list of questions, but we can also sort of take or leave it depending on how the conversation goes. I don't have to ask you every single one down the row. I guess the good starting point would be, which one would you like to start with? There's the one where you are sort of responding to a presentation that you had to give after you heard the news of a friend's passing very suddenly, or there's the one story where you revived another person that you knew.
This is today was the first time I actually took a look at the one with my friend, and I have thought about it all day. So I think that if I don't talk about that one first, I'll be thinking about it at least.
Okay, so we can start there. So, what do you see in this illustration, and what moment does it represent to you in both your life and your work as a peer?
When I looked at this image, the one where like in the top right where she's in the chair, I'm immediately like brought back to that moment. It and not in a negative way, but it really it was like I was in that room again. I felt all of the same, or I could like recall that feeling of like, oh my God. And then the immediate like need to help her. I haven't really reflected much on my side of it. Um, I think more so when we did talk about it, we talked a lot about my experience like with her and possibly like what she went through. But yeah, I really reflected on that moment with her, and I haven't talked to her for a while, so it was a good, in a really fucked up way, it was a good memory.
Yeah, and I think, in the moment, as you described, feeling memories, the physical memories of that moment, that is one of the things that is on our list of questions of, how did you feel in your body and your senses in that moment, and maybe why do you think it recalls it for you when you see it?
Oh, I felt it in my whole body. It was maybe not as intense as it was in the moment, when that was actually happening, but I my body just responded in the same way. Um, it, yeah, it just had me like reflecting on my work and how it that seems to be that reaction of, rather than calling for help, just I am the person that is the help, and that has always come naturally to me. Yeah, it's crazy how I can relate it to something that I'm really proud of because it's intense, and it was, I mean, after that situation, I took 2 months off work to process it. So it didn't come without harm, but I'd still do the same thing again. Still am.
Yeah, because it's one of the while I was doing the art for it, I had that transcript out, and I remember you talking about, sort of in the immediate aftermath, you were having a lot of trouble sleeping, and when like, why can't I why can't I go to sleep? And so I think it's just that story that you told, I feel like it could be a graphic novel on its own. It could be a whole slew of pages. So, and you also described that it's something you've described yourself as someone who you do run in those situations. But I think this was, I believe you said it was your first time that you had used naloxone in that
Yeah,
moment.
yeah. And you just brought another memory from that moment because I'd been showing someone how to use naloxone the other day, and there's this little silver dot that's behind this like opaque kind of screen thing so you don't cut yourself when you pop the top. And I I remember that I forgot to like swirl the bottle because I mean when you're not practicing it every day, and it's been, let's say, a few weeks, and then this being my first moment with like someone that I thought of as a friend and how intense the situation was, um I remember trying to get the naloxone out of the bottle, and but like not realizing that it was also stuck in the top half. So I was like, why is there so little in here? And then having to get another bottle, or another ampule, sorry, of it. And then that moment, like right before I'm about to inject her, I like stopped for a second and was like, holy shit, I'm about to put a needle in somebody, which I've never done before. And so I think what it takes to go from, that point to actually inserting the syringe, that's a huge step. Yeah.
Absolutely. And yeah, I feel like it's definitely a situation where you can do all the all the theory practice on like someone who's not actually in at risk, like medically at risk in the situation, but having that pressure must be a whole other moment. I guess just for your experience in that moment, is that something that you think of how you responded in an earlier part of your career in harm reduction? Do you feel, I mean, you would obviously respond the same way now. Do you think it would be a similar experience now?
I don't think so because um, each time there is any sort of crisis, meeting with um, either the mobile response team and whoever else has responded to something, doing a check-in, if you're at work, and then like I cannot stress the importance of a debrief and afterwards, because from I learned so much from that moment. So, what went well, and then what would you have done differently? And then you just do better each time. So, I mean, now it's pretty like muscle memory now what I do when I come upon someone that has become unresponsive to an unregulated supply.
Yeah, that makes sense. Of not I don't know, getting easier over time doesn't sound like the right word in this context, but you have a better idea of what to do. How in this moment did you have anyone else supporting you, or did the support come more afterwards with the debrief?
The support definitely came afterwards because the person that I was on shift with, she was on another floor in the building. And when she was, I think she was doing wellness checks, which we would do every night if on the people that we hadn't seen that day. We like to see everyone at least twice a day or talk to them. And that's when I got the call to the office from the room that these people were in. And so I had brought naloxone and our kit, and then I went just on my own to the room because I was told that this person was having a seizure, or the person on the phone said that she was having a seizure. And because of this person's history, that was likely to have happened. So I went, and when I opened the door, that's when I realized this was not a seizure. So I radioed my shift partner, and but I still had to respond in that moment.
So was this scene took place when you were working in supportive housing?
Yeah, correct.
And so did you wind up having to do multiple times while you were there, or was this kind of like
I think once because I was in like a very rural and remote community. So by the time drugs got up to us, they were pretty stepped on. Stepped on meaning that they left as one substance and then kind of got mixed in with a bunch of other shit along the way. And so I would say at least, I don't know, 10, 15 times. Yeah, enough times. Fortunately, we would have folks who would call down to us and let us know if they were using something that was new and they weren't sure of its potency. So we had built a lot of trust with the participants in order to check on them. So then we would just give them a call if they were alone, and we'd go up and check if they didn't answer. But lots of the times people wouldn't use alone, and but I can't speak for how many times in their own rooms where they had given someone naloxone. And if someone was like overdosing, but able to be roused like with physical stimulation, then like a lot of the times they would come and sit by the office, and then we would just keep checking on them. So that way we didn't have to administer naloxone, especially if they were on methadone or another opiate agonist therapy. You don't kind of want to avoid that.
possible? Yeah, that makes sense. And yeah, it's good that there was such a trust between the people there and the peers. So that, yeah, probably made everything a little bit, I don't know. Again, less stressful isn't quite the
No,
word.
you're right. They really, I think my ability to connect with them over our shared experience and understanding, I might not have a history that is that goes as far as theirs has taken them, but there's a common ground, and I think we just as peers we just know how to treat each other, and how that makes us feel safe. So I think that had a lot to do with it.
I think that's kind of something that really comes through in that story. Because yeah, one of my favorite moments from it is where, when you're describing when she woke up and that you linked eyes and then sort of the compassionate response to it. And so I guess just as far as the illustration goes, does that feel represented uh, accurately to you, and as well as your experiences sort of related to the both the stressors of being a peer, but also the compassion and the like mutual living experience?
I think so. I think you did a great job. I love how I'm in that frame, and like because I'm such a theatrical, like, hands talker person. So I remember being like, look at me, like, come on, you can do it, look at me. Like, I just, that, because you can see a shift in someone who is from where she was and to, coming back to being conscious and responsive. And this is also a terrible analogy, but when someone's running the last, 50 meters of a race, and there's like three of them and they're neck and neck, and you're either like a parent or a coach or whoever, and you're like, come on, and like you're just trying to like motivate that extra adrenaline. The same thing goes for reviving somebody. I think that people can hear more than we think that they can hear, whether they are registering it on a conscious level. It's so important to talk to people and to do that in a way that's like genuine. Yeah. So you nailed it in that one too.
Thanks. Yeah, it's just also, just looking at back over the interviews, it was so, you made that motion in while you were talking. So like you can even see while you were retelling the story how that could come into play, and how it would connect with someone. And yeah, I
That's
think it
cool.
was just trying to like translate the sort of the physical things that I could see from the interview process
Mhm.
into the story itself. And yeah, I remember in the one of your earlier bits of feedback was how basically how you had found her in the chair and how she was lying. So I think the way that you describe things is very helpful also to doing the art, because it like makes a very clear visual picture to work with, which is really great.
I'm definitely a storyteller. Um, I think there's this one person who he works for the mobile response team, and I think that's why I have um, been so very well supported by this person, because he's also a narrative therapist, is like his, or narrative counselor therapist in his other life job. So yeah, he's a storyteller, and that is the only way that I've ever found that I can express how I'm feeling, is by trying to have someone else connect to a feeling through a story.
Well, I think you do it very successfully, because I could usually get the drawings of you done very quickly, because I was like, I have an idea of how Tasia would be moving or talking or speaking, and then it was the other figures that would come into play that were a bit more challenging. So this was an incident where afterwards you said that you went on a leave. How did that come about, and did you realize that yourself, that that was something that you needed to do sort of in the aftermath of the experience?
Um, so the way that I like work things out, that I go through, challenging things, I any sort of like crisis or after a debrief, I get very matter of fact. If I can understand how something works, and if I can, I guess, rationalize it, if it can make sense to me, then I move on from it. Um, Once I like make up my mind about most things, then that's like checking the box. And when this happened, I guess I was just still very removed from my my emotional response. I didn't take that into consideration. I had never seen someone in this color before. I had not experienced this magnitude of a crisis. Um, and so I could not recognize my like subconscious and physical response to it. So although my body was telling me that this was really messed up. This isn't something that we see. You can't rationalize seeing someone who is almost dead, that there's no rationale to that. And, but what my thoughts were telling me was, this went well. Thank God you were there. Thank God you were the person that was able to respond to her, because maybe that could make her, like, her recovery from this situation feel safer. She doesn't have to feel any guilt. Um, and it could not have, I mean, it definitely could have gone a bit better. The timing kind of sucked with the staff member not being available, but all in all, everything went well and she's alive. So then I went home, and I remember laying on the couch and being like, wow, I can't sleep. And I had like my blackout curtains and everything. So I was like, okay, let's get up and do something because I am used to insomnia. And uh, then that went on for like days. And I was like, I want to start a new project and I'm working on this. And I just had all these like manic ideas that I mean, I still think that they were good ideas, but not well executed in that time frame. And after going to work on my day off, I remember printing a bunch of these posters and then laminating all of them. And not that like we couldn't use the laminator, but like this was a lot. This was so excessive. And that's when I got a call from our coordinator the next day, and she knows me quite well through the community action team that I was on there and through peer support work, and just knowing me from a very like ground level. So she called, and that's when she was like, I'm going to give you a gift, and it's not going to feel like a gift. She's like, you need to take some time off. You need to take medical leave. And that I was like, okay, because I trusted her, and she was able to build that trust with me. And I think there might be a lot of people that hear that and think like, are you a union and your employer can't tell you that you need to take time off? Like there's so much controversy around that. But um thank God that that like her and I had that relationship, and that she had built such a trust that she absolutely had every right to do that. She saved me from destroying myself.
Do you think that that's something like the conclusion of needing a break is something that you would have arrived at on your own if she hadn't called you and told you it'd be a good idea?
At that time, no. I was still so new into that work, and as a I love what I do, and as an overachiever, and as a I know how to work. I know that I work well. And I likely would have just continued pushing on. I was new into abstinence. I was probably, gosh, like a year and a half at that point. And so just a baby, and trying to recognize my own thoughts and my own feelings and reactions. So no, I definitely would not have said I needed a break. I probably would have wrecked some relationships that I worked really hard at creating or maintaining.
Sometimes when that sort of workhorse brain just won't account for that something really stressful or jarring has happened. It's like amazing that the human mind will do that sometimes, where it won't just take the stock.
And like pre-COVID, it the idea of going into work, or calling in sick to work, even if you're legitimately sick, was not an option. Well, I didn't ever feel like that for me. I always had thought maybe someone, one, I didn't want to let people down. Two, I didn't think that they would believe me. So I think that a lot of people can relate to dragging themselves to work when they have the flu so their manager can see them to be like, okay, you are sick, go home. And being so young at that time, just having it assumed that I was hungover or I didn't want to come in or whatever it was, like calling in sick to work before COVID, I don't think was an option for most people in fear of losing their job or whatever the case may be. It's not the same
Yeah.
anymore.
No, no. Luckily, that has shifted at least a little bit. So, I guess I will then just ask you, what are my questions here? It says, how did this scene end? We touched on that. And I guess it resolved. Did it feel sort of like the situation was resolved when you got that experience of taking a leave?
Yeah, I think so because it gave me the opportunity to do some more training and really dive into how to cope, how to manage, how to, you know, I took, oh my gosh, I think I took like maybe a handful or two of courses in that time, just like short certificates, just over a few weeks. And if I was still working at that time, then I would have just like persevered. I would have just kept pushing through my exhaustion and my experience and the trauma that came with it. I would not have addressed it in the meaningful way that I was able to do then. Yeah, it definitely would not have had me in the position that I am now if I didn't get that time off. It was truly a gift.
Well, luckily she made that call to get you to take a step back in that moment. So, yeah, is there anything else on your mind about that illustration? Anything you'd like to add before we move to the other one?
I guess it just has me thinking a lot about how we how peers do this work and how the people who get to hire or to employ them and how they foster their growth. I guess my addition to this is I hope that people hear the message of take care of the ones that take care of you. I don't think you'll ever lose. I think we are very short game uh, thinking, I guess, is our society, the culture, the work culture. So take the time to work through these kinds of things, and I don't think that you'll ever go wrong.
I think that's a great point. That yeah, if you support your peers, your workforce, it will people will always respond better than if they feel taken advantage of.
Yeah, well,
Or
you'll have them for a lot longer, that's for
yeah,
sure.
absolutely. Yeah, so then looking at the other one, which is the one where you are there's a panel of you at the top and then you're also speaking to a group of people that you are going to do a presentation with. What moment does this illustration represent for you?
Oh man, frustration, the reality of where we are at. It, yeah, I'm kind of like what's happening for me right now. I'm running through so many other situations just like this one since November where I have to or I felt I have had to stand up and and say the things and continue to advocate for change. And it takes a lot of work to not be angry. It's just mentally exhausting. And I don't have a lot of fancy words to work with. So it's really hard not to tell people like they're fucking stupid. Because I don't actually feel that way. It's just it when something doesn't make sense to me, it's hard to navigate that. We have, solutions on one side, and then on the other side of the like governing bodies or health authorities or, all these very well educated, supported, and have all the platforms in the world that are most of the time not even considering those solutions. Like, no, we're just going to keep doing this over here and up here and keep ignoring the voices of what is many more of us than there are of them.
Yeah, and I think describing it as sort of the reality of dealing with that is a very good way to put it. I remember in the moment in the interview of it was so the fact that you did still go to the presentation after experiencing the loss of your friend, and that you did tell the presentation of a version of that speech that is in the text of, it was very, I don't know, it's one of those things where I don't want to say that it was like amazing or impressive because you shouldn't have to, and especially given the context, but it was just, yeah, it was a very eye-opening moment, I think, to hear that
Oh,
you
what a world we would live in if sharing your experience and how you feel and what is real for you and not being afraid. I think the world would be a much better place if everyone actually did more of those things. Like, I was terrified. Had, I don't know, 6 weeks to prepare. And for like 4 of those weeks, I was just riddled with anxiety and just couldn't keep moving forward with the slides that I had come up with and the information. I had poster boards all over my walls that, like, anytime someone would pop into my head, I would write it down. And then when I would go to put it into like this nice wrapped up presentation, I I was so dumbfounded every time that I was talking about harm reduction when, to me, harm reduction is healthcare. Harm reduction is the foundation of everything that I think we should be doing. Um, and that I was explaining it to, again, this very well educated group of people, like hundreds of people. And so when I finally did wrap it all up and I stayed up most of the night before because I couldn't sleep, and then waking up to the news of my friend being dead, I oh yeah, man, that was really hard. And that's when I phoned a couple of my friends, a few people that know me well. And one of my friends said, she's like, "What do you want to do?" And I was like, "I want to go on that presentation and be like, what the hell? Are you kidding? Is this happening right now? Does anyone else in this virtual room see how absurd it is that I'm trying to teach you how to have empathy and compassion and care. This has been going on way longer than I've been involved in it, and it goes back to like the fucking AIDS crisis. It's the same shit, different pile. Why? Why does this have to be like this? This is a waste of time. And then I have to take this whole day off work because I can't just say, "Hey, I'm going to jump out for 2 hours" when I'm the only person that's in my position that's paid. There's no coverage. So now I have to go, and I'm paying for nurses and doctors and pharmacists and other health professionals who make way more than I do. I have to pay them to teach them this. And my friend just died because they can't seem to figure it out on their own. Yeah. I don't know. Still a mystery to me.
So I was gonna say one of the questions are, do you identify with the person in the illustration? But I would say pretty confidently, yes. This is something that is experienced semi-regularly, it sounds like, on your end
Oh,
of how
I definitely. It's me in the situation at that table. If you could animate it to where my hands go up and then hit the table in a way that's very I don't know, like Steve Jobs like like come on, work harder, be better, don't take a break, no water for you. But then I go home and actually quite often sit with my legs in the chair. I don't know if you intentionally did my knees up like that, because
it was
whenever I'm in that chair at work, I always pull my legs up.
it was just something I noticed in the interview footage that you did when you were talking about it, you sat like that. And I think at another point in one of the interviews you'd also mentioned that you're quite small, and so I just thought it
Like
suited.
hugging myself.
Yeah, and especially because it's like a moment where you just were coming really fresh off of a loss of someone that you knew. And yeah, I think the hugging yourself, it makes sense.
on on Saturday, like just this past Saturday, the family of my friend, who was in the same like work that I do, much more brilliant and uh we just had her service, and I actually sat like that when we had gone down to there's a marina here and it's beautiful. There are food trucks and a water park and a huge field, and there's these two kind of smaller rooms where people can have like meetings or birthdays or whichever. And there just happened to be this band that was playing, and like I'll use that term loosely. Everyone there was 75 and older. There were three banjo players, a few guitar players, some I can't recall what this instrument is, and if anyone knows what it is, they're probably like, "Are you kidding me?" It's like that one with like the single string. It's like really tall, kind of looks like a stick.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about, but I also don't know
Ding,
what it's
ding,
called.
ding, ding. Yeah. And another lady that was had this brush looking thing that she was like slapping on a box, and they ended up setting up and getting there the same time that this service for kind of everyone happened. And I am not huge on sitting in a room full of grieving people. I can feel things quite deeply, so I moved out to the patio, and then I just sat in front of this band and then put my head up against the wall with like my knees tucked up, and I sat there for probably an hour, and every song that they had sang was like about, like putting her to rest, and hopefully the circle will carry us through, or hopefully the circle will keep us strong. Call God if you have something to say. And it was quite beautiful. Yeah. So apparently I sit like that a lot when I'm sad.
That's just an interesting, like, additional story to go with the visual. But in this moment, were you able to get other support? You mentioned that you were able to talk to some friends who knew you well. Did you find that helpful in sort of going through the emotional process of deciding what to do and in regards to the presentation, whether or not to go ahead with it or not?
I had kind of shared the same thing with like the two people that I had called in what I wanted to do and how and what I wanted to say. And they were right on board. They're like, do it. Like, if that's what you want to do and that's what you feel that you have to do, respectfully, say the things you want to say. And then, but then also supporting, like when I had reached out to the pharmacy tech who invited me to do the presentation, I I had let her know what was going on, and she gave me a call, and she was like, "Don't feel like any pressure whatsoever. You don't have to do this. Take the time, and obviously sorry for my loss." And I was like, "I'm actually kind of thinking about doing this." And because the presentation and all of the presentations that day, like for that roundtable, they were all accredited, so you had to give what your objectives were, and then you had to teach those things. So in order for the people who were participating and watching this series, that way they can be accredited for it and they can get a certificate at the end of it. So if it doesn't like hit all those things, then they won't get that. My fear was that because mine wasn't what it was going to be, that it would risk their certification. So I didn't want my feelings to and what I was going through on a personal level to affect someone's education, really. And she was like, you can do whatever you want. So I took everything that I had planned, except for my like little main objectives, and then I went totally rogue with them. And yeah, at the end, when they asked if I'd be open to questions, I think if we were in a physical room together, you probably could have heard a pin drop because I'm not sure anyone was expecting to hear that story and to learn that. But my email was at the end, and I actually had to like turn everything on silent because it's like ding 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 ding, and so many people reached out, thanking me for sharing, understanding where I've been. I wish I could, say those things. And man, if we could all say those kinds of things out loud in a huge group in front of so many people, again, what a world we would live in.
How did that make you feel when you got that response after the nerves of, will I go off script or won't I?
Supported and validated. I come from a past of being, I guess, I don't want to say good with my words, but I would speak before I thought a lot. I would not consider those around me, like especially in my youth. I got myself into quite a bit of trouble for my mouth. And so in working on that at that time and always trying to be mindful of what I say and kind of what I lay on people, I could sometimes forget that this might not actually be beneficial to someone and it might trigger them or whatever it is or whatever it was. But yeah, I felt this sense of this is where I'm supposed to be and these are the things that I'm supposed to do and say. And yeah, that's how I felt.
Which is, I guess, one of the better outcomes that you could hope to feel given the situation not being a nice one to start your day with, having a personal loss. I guess just glancing at our time now, is there any final thoughts you have about that illustration? Anything you'd like to add?
I guess if something that you're going to do or that you really want to do scares the shit out of you, run it by your two very best friends first. Someone or people who are not afraid to tell you exactly how they feel and who are not afraid to hurt your feelings. And then if they support it, do it. That's what I'd like to add. Yeah.
I think that's a good one. I think the fear can come from a place of caring very much about what you're about to say or put forward.
And
That is
even being afraid of like the implications of saying what you think in front of a lot of people. It's terrifying.
Yeah, and especially when it's, as you said, this is not it's not a strange feeling to you where you have to go and kind of be like, listen to what I'm saying to all of these external, not supports, but organizations and
Authority.
things. Yes, that's the word. Where some of the stuff should be accessible to them already, type of thing.
Definitely is.
So I
I
think
know because I didn't have access to it when I tried.
So I think that is a good final point there of run it by a couple trusted people, but it's usually the fear can be showing you something is worth saying and it's worth holding your ground for things like that. Yeah, that I believe this now will actually be the last interview that we've done. I feel like the last three we've been like, this is the last one. And it
No
hasn't. But
way.
yeah, I know
That makes me sad.
I know. It feels very weird. It just seems like it could go on forever.
Like I've almost known you for like almost a year. Oh my
Crazy.
gosh. This can't be it. There's no way.
That brings us to the end of this episode of the Unsilencing Stories podcast. To listen to more interviews in the series, please go to www.unsilencingstories.com. And if you'd like to share your thoughts on the episode, message us at unsilencingstories@gmail.com. Thank you for listening.